Imagine checking into a hotel, giving the receptionist a name that isn't yours, asking for a room, and then spending the next few days surrounded by strangers who have no idea who you really are. Now imagine that, inside that room, something goes terribly wrong. A man is found beaten. His wrists and ankles appear to have been restrained. He's badly injured, and before he dies, he refuses to tell anyone who attacked him. The strangest part, police don't even know his real name. This is the story of Room 1046, a hotel room in Kansas City that became the center of one of America's strangest unsolved murders. A mysterious guest, a false name, unexplained visitors, cryptic telephone calls, a locked hotel room, and a killer who disappeared without leaving a clear answer behind. His real name was Artemus Ogletree, but when he entered Room 1046, the world knew him as Roland T. Owen, and what happened to him there remains a mystery to this day. Welcome back to the channel. Tonight, we're traveling back to Kansas City, Missouri, in January of 1935, to investigate one of the most bizarre hotel murder mysteries ever recorded. A case where almost every clue seems to raise another question. Who was the mysterious man calling himself Roland T. Owen? Why did he seem determined to hide his identity? Who were the strangers seen entering and leaving his room? Why did hotel employees hear disturbing conversations and unexplained phone calls? And most importantly, who killed him? Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications if you enjoy deep dives into strange, unexplained mysteries. Because this case is anything but ordinary. Chapter 1: The Man Who Checked In. It was January 2, 1935. A man walked into the prestigious Hotel President in downtown Kansas City. He appeared to be an ordinary traveler. Nothing about him immediately suggested danger. He approached the front desk and asked for a room. The hotel clerk recorded his name as Roland T. Owen. He was given room 1046. At first, there was nothing particularly suspicious about the reservation. But there was something unusual about the guest. He seemed strangely secretive. According to later accounts, Owen did not behave like a typical hotel customer. He often kept the room dark. He sometimes sat or lay on the bed fully dressed. And he appeared reluctant to interact with hotel employees. But the strangest behavior was yet to come, because over the next 2 days, people began entering room 1046, and nobody could clearly explain who they were. Chapter 2: The Strange Visitors. Hotel employees noticed that Owen received visitors. One particular visitor would later become especially important to the investigation. A man, possibly named Don. Descriptions of him were inconsistent, and because more than a decade had passed before some details were reconstructed, exactly what happened inside room 1046 remains difficult to establish with certainty. But one thing was clear: Owen wasn't always alone. At various points, hotel staff encountered people inside or around his room. Sometimes the door was open, sometimes it was locked, and sometimes the room seemed strangely empty. Chapter 3: The Telephone Call. Then came one of the most disturbing details of the entire case. A hotel employee reportedly received a call connected to room 1046. The voice on the other end allegedly gave instructions concerning Owen. The exact circumstances surrounding these calls have been debated over the years, but they contributed to an increasingly disturbing picture. Someone was communicating with the room. Someone knew Owen, and someone appeared to have access to him. Yet the identity of that person remained unknown. Chapter 4: The Night of the Attack. By January 4th, the situation inside room 1046 had become horrifying. Hotel staff discovered Owen severely injured. He had suffered terrible violence. He had been beaten. His body showed evidence consistent with strangulation, and there were injuries suggesting he had been restrained. The scene was disturbing enough to immediately raise a critical question. Was this a robbery, a personal dispute, a planned murder, or something else entirely? The injured man was still alive, and investigators desperately needed answers, so they asked him the obvious question: who attacked you? But Owen wouldn't give them a name. Chapter 5: The Final Hours. The mystery became even more frustrating because Owen had an opportunity to reveal the truth. He could have told police who he was. He could have identified his attacker. He could have explained why he had been staying at the hotel. But instead, his answers were limited, contradictory, or unhelpful. Then his condition deteriorated. And eventually, he died. The police had a murdered man. But they didn't know his real identity. They didn't know why he was in Kansas City. They didn't know who had attacked him. And they didn't know why someone would want him dead. Chapter 6. He wasn't Roland Owen. Investigators began trying to determine who Roland T. Owen really was. And eventually, they discovered something shocking. Roland T. Owen wasn't his real name. The murdered man was actually Artemus Ogletree. He had been using an alias. But even after investigators discovered his identity, the biggest mystery remained unsolved. Why? Why would a young man travel under a false name? Why would he check into a hotel and deliberately conceal his identity? And who knew where he was? Chapter 7. The Mysterious Letters. And then, months after Ogletree's death, another bizarre development occurred. A letter arrived at his mother's home. The letter appeared to have been written by Artemus. But there was one enormous problem. Artemus was dead. The existence of the letters raised an extraordinary possibility. Was someone pretending to be him? Was someone trying to convince his family that he was still alive? Or had the letters been connected to the same person responsible for his death? If the letters were genuine communications from someone who knew Ogletree, then they might have contained a clue. But instead, they only deepened the mystery. Chapter 8. Who was Don? One of the most intriguing figures connected to the case was a man sometimes referred to as Don. But who was Don? A friend, a business associate, a criminal acquaintance, a stranger, or the murderer? Investigators considered various possibilities, but there was never enough evidence to establish his identity with certainty. And that is one of the defining characteristics of Room 1046. There are clues. There are witnesses. There are strange stories. There are suspicious details. But almost nothing connects them into a complete picture. Chapter 9. The room itself. Perhaps the most haunting part of the story is the room itself. Think about what Room 1046 must have looked like that night. A bed, a telephone, a door, a dark room, and somewhere inside, a man whose real identity had been hidden. Someone had been there with him. Someone had apparently left. And whatever happened between those walls. When with the killer, the room became a crime scene. But it never became an answer. Chapter 10. Theories. Over the decades, countless theories have emerged. Some suggest Ogletree may have been involved with dangerous people. Others have speculated that his secret identity was connected to a personal relationship or criminal activity. Some theories focus on the mysterious visitor. Others question whether the letters sent after his death were part of an elaborate attempt to hide the truth. But there's a problem. None of these theories has been proven. And that's an important distinction. A good mystery is filled with possibilities. A solved murder is filled with evidence. Room 1046 has plenty of the first, but not enough of the second. Chapter 1. What we actually know. So let's separate the facts from the speculation. We know a man checked into the hotel president using the name Roland T. Owen. We know the room was 1046. We know the man was later identified as Artemus Ogletree. We know he suffered a violent attack. We know he died from his injuries. We know investigators struggled to establish exactly what happened inside the room. And we know that despite the investigation, no murderer was ever conclusively identified. Everything beyond those facts must be treated carefully. Because over the decades, the Room 1046 story has been repeated, embellished, and surrounded by legends. And separating the original evidence from later storytelling is one of the hardest parts of this case. Chapter 12. The biggest question. But perhaps the biggest question isn't simply, who killed Artemus Ogletree? It's this. Who was Artemus Ogletree? Why did he use a false name? Why was he in Kansas City? Who was he meeting? Who knew where he was? And why would someone go to such extraordinary lengths to conceal what happened inside Room 1046? We may never know, because the people who could have answered those questions are long gone. More than 9 decades have passed since that January night. The hotel president still stands as a reminder of Kansas City's past. But the story of Room 1046 has become something much darker. A story about identity, secrecy, violence, and a man who entered a hotel under a name that wasn't his, only to leave behind one of the strangest murder mysteries in American history. So, if you enjoyed this investigation, subscribe to the channel for more true crime cases. unexplained mysteries, and forgotten stories from history.